Bank on it, brought to you by Commercial Bank. Tennessee needs to keep this game close to keep Mark Stoops in the SEC. Bank on it, brought to you by Commercial Bank. So, Caleb, we've argued earlier that Tennessee needs to win it big to help with their college football playoff potential bid that's out there, but I'll take it a step further. They don't want to win too big because Mark Stoops' seat is really, really hot. Maybe hotter than Shane Beamer's. I would say equally as hot as Brent Venables, from what I'm hearing my sources in Kentucky. So I'll say bank on it. Mark Stoops is good for the Vols. You agree or disagree, Caleb?
Commercial Bank is your neighborhood bank. What makes us different from other banks? We understand that every customer has unique opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. We don't expect you to fit into the same box as the next person or business. Whether it's purchasing a home, saving for your child's future, or planning for your next vacation, we're with you every step of the way to navigate life's big decisions. Commercial Bank. Life made better.
All right. In honor of Halloween, I've changed my name to Boo Carter. Boo. All right. So it's down there. You can see it right there, Caleb. All right. So Mark Stoops is good for the Vols at Kentucky. Yay or nay?
Nay, because if you know Kentucky's history, they could be significantly, the chances are if they didn't have Mark Stoops, they'd be significantly worse and easier to beat. I mean, right now, Tennessee still has to look. Let's go through history for a minute, Dave. For most of history, Tennessee didn't even have to prepare for Kentucky. As you pointed out aptly plenty of times, Philip Fulmer spent the week recruiting ahead of Kentucky.
Okay, now here's my retort to that. That is true. However, I think with the transfer portal and the money that could be there as they get a little bit more serious about football. And listen, everybody's going to have to get more serious about football because if you don't, you're not going to be in the mega conference. So I think that actually if they went out and hired a better coach, which they could do now that they're not giving Calipari all that money, I think they could be a solid football program. When I say solid, I'm talking about what Vanderbilt is doing this year. I don't even think they can be as good as South Carolina because of the lack of in-state talent. There are literally like 5 legit SEC players in Kentucky a year. So I think they could do better if they got serious about it. Right now, you have a guy that's going to win 8 or 9 games at best, never scare you offensively, and do it the old-fashioned way. And I hate to tell you, but Josh Heupel's a little bit more innovative than that.
Okay, here's my problem with what you're saying. You're ignoring history in a huge way, and you're ignoring who's at Kentucky right now. Part of this is the incompetence of an administration. He's the longest-serving athletic director, and I feel like Mitch Barnhart has gotten dumber with age at Kentucky, if I'm just being honest. We're talking about the guy who gave John Calipari a lifetime contract for 1 national championship at the most storied basketball program in college in the history of the sport.
But did you have a problem with that at the time?
Yes.
I mean, because I didn't, because I thought Calipari was a free throw miss away from winning another championship. So then you're talking at Memphis. So then you're talking about 2 championships for a coach that prides itself on being a blue blood. I thought he would win 2 or 3 more.
Yes, but he lost them because of his miserable on-court coaching. That Memphis game you talked about, that's some of the worst last 2-minute coaching I've ever seen.
Oh,
Kentucky, when they played Wisconsin in the Final Four in 2015, and he had Karl Anthony Towns and an undefeated team, and Bo Ryan coached circles around him, giving the ball to Frank Kaminsky, and Calipari's like, I didn't know I should have given the ball to Karl Anthony Towns to try to counter that.
Yeah, okay, but I'll say this. I think you know what you're getting with him, with Calipari. You were going to get a team that's going to try to out-talent you. I think what you're getting with Mark Stoops, to get back to the question, is you know what you're getting. I don't see him ever going out. I mean, Brent Venables is not going to survive at Oklahoma. That's just, we said that before the season. I don't care that they played okay at the beginning of the year. It's not going to happen. He at least went out and got an offensive coordinator that he thought could handle things, and he changed mid-flow. which means he's aggressive. He's trying to fix things. I don't think that Mark Stoops is the type of coach that's going to go out and try to fix things.
Because Kentucky doesn't want him to fix anything. They're content with what he does for the most part until this year. And Dave, what I'm trying to tell you is, here's what you're saying. If Tennessee keeps it close against Kentucky, let's talk about what you said. That puts their college football playoff hopes in jeopardy. You are suggesting they put their college football playoff hopes for this year in jeopardy on the off chance that if they don't, Kentucky could upgrade their coach next year, which most likely will not happen. Because for that to happen, one, they'd have to move on from Mark Stoops. And two, you would have to trust Mitch Barnhart to be smart. There's no evidence of that. He just hired Mark Pope for basketball, okay? So the guy doesn't know what he's doing when he hires coaches now. And three, you have to assume that there would be a pool of good coaches who would want to take the Kentucky job. The good coaches are going to look at other jobs. Dave, Florida's about to become open. UCF, I'll give you this. UCF or Kentucky, which job you taking?
I would take Kentucky to be in the SEC.
No, you wouldn't. You would take UCF in a heartbeat. I get what you're saying with the SEC, but UCF is locked into a Power 3 conference because they joined the Big 12, and the recruiting is better at UCF. You would take UCF. You don't just take a school because they're in the SEC. You don't take Kentucky, Vanderbilt, or Mississippi State. Them being in the SEC makes them bad jobs because they recruit like American Athletic Conference schools, but they're stuck against ACC competition.
Okay, but Mark Stoops is going to be considered for the Oklahoma job, which is now in the SEC. But if you prove that you can win 8 games at Kentucky, you're a pretty high commodity.
Hence the reason you shouldn't want to keep Mark Stoops at Kentucky. You should be happy if he's gone because Kentucky can't replicate him. Mark Stoops does as good of a job as, can you agree with me on this? Mark Stoops has maxed out what's possible at Kentucky.
No. I don't agree with that. Not because of NIL. Not because of NIL. I think every program in the nation almost should be looking at its head coach and saying, could we do better now that we have more money?
You think, okay, I'm just going to disagree with you on that because I think that Kentucky still is going to be limited on what they can do. I think that, and also, again, I think Mitch, here's what I'm putting my faith in. I think Mitch Barnhart would make a really dumb hire. That's where I'm at. I think he'd make a really stupid hire that we'd all be like, what? And
a little hard on Mitch Barnhart. I mean, he did hire Mark Stoops and has made Kentucky football respectable. You and I disagree on Calipari, but he did go out and get Calipari too.
Well, but here's the problem. Mitch Barnhart, and I'm just going to bring this up. He is tied to, he's kind of skated by it since, but back in April, his name was tied to a serious Title IX lawsuit against the university based on knowledge of a swimming coach having an inappropriate relationship with a player, which, by the way, you can call it what it is, that's being a sexual predator. If you're a coach and you're having a relationship with a player, you're a predator at that point. Sorry, end of the story. Sounds like reports are he was aware of it and was complicit in it. There's going to be scandal. The investigation, my understanding, is still going on. There could be scandal wrapping him around throughout the hiring process, and people will want to stay away from that. I think that I don't think Mitch Barnhart would upgrade over Mark Stoops. I think the likelihood is he would get worse. But either way, Dave, you are sitting here and saying Tennessee should sacrifice its college football playoff hopes this year, just on the off chance that Kentucky upgrades at coaching next year.
No, I think there's a perfect number. I think they beat the spread. I think they win by 17. You keep Stoops around and you get a respectable win over the Wildcats.